Welcome to A Spiritual Lens, a podcast dedicated to seeing the world not just as it appears, but as it truly is. A spiritual lens is where we will begin to unpack profound insights, helping you to look beyond the surface and discover the underlying truths that shape our lives. If you've ever felt there's more to life than what meets the eye, you've found your community. Join us as we learn to see the world and ourselves through a spiritual lens. Here's our instructor, Omari Jahi.
Hey, good morning and welcome to A Spiritual Lens. I'm your instructor, Omari Jahi, and this morning we are going to be continuing in the chapter in our book, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, entitled The Purpose of Life, Part 2. This is the second part of it. We actually started on it last Saturday, and we're going to kind of finish it off, hopefully, this Saturday. And we thank you all for tuning in. You know, this is the book, Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth. If you're interested in a free copy, just inbox us on Facebook or in the chat. You know, type your email address and we'll get it out to you, okay? Sure. All right, so today we're going to be dealing with freedom versus bondage. You know, this is a part of, again, the chapter dealing with the purpose of life, you know. And so when we're talking about the purpose of life, we have to really understand that in order to live, there has to be some rules and regulations that we abide by in order to consider ourselves, you know, having a purposeful life and doing something purposeful in our lives. But now this thing called freedom, you know, that kind of throws a little twist into the purpose thing, because if we're free to do what we want to do and when we want to do a thing, then how then can we have a purpose? Well, how can somebody give us a purpose for our lives if we're free to do what we want to do? So that, again, that's what we're going to address today, because all our lives we've been taught to fight and struggle for this thing or something called freedom. And freedom is only a state in which somebody can act and live as he or she chooses without being subject to any undue restraints or restrictions. So if there are restrictions on our lives in any way, then brothers and sisters, we have to accept the reality that we aren't free. We live in a world full of restrictions and laws denying us the freedom that we seek. In the spiritual world of our Creator God, restraints and restrictions have been placed on man through commandments, universal laws that forbid man from certain activities. You know, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not, restraints, you know. And if we abide by these restraints, then I'm sorry, we got to take this thing called freedom off the table. How can anything that has been created have the freedom to do what it wants to do other than the purpose for which it was created? Unless we are self-created, we will always be under the control of our Creator or those that He has placed over us. You know, like parents. We as parents, God placed us over our children to be their guardians, to guide them, to raise them and things of that nature. But we're all God's children. So He placed us over our children. So our children have to abide by our rules and our regulations. But now this thing called free will, on the other hand, has motivated us to believe that there is a way to obey God without being under His or anyone else's control. Under free will, I guess we believe we have the right to go to church or not to go to church. We have the right to pay God's 10%, they call it tithes, or we have the right to not pay it. We got the right to obey God's commandments if we want to, or neglect those commandments that we don't want to do. There are certain rules like I'll just give you one for example. The thou shalt not care for that one because it hinders what we may want or desire, But truly, this is truly a choice that God has given us as a test to see if at some point we will recognize that his way and his commandments are what's best for us. At some point we would come to the realization and into the understanding that this thing that says thou shalt not commit fornication was put in place for a reason. But if we don't live our lives and keep our minds open to learning the lessons of life, then we go through life just haphazardly. We ain't trying to learn no lessons. We ain't trying to do nothing. We just having fun, right? When we chase after this thing called freedom, as if we were a horse with a carrot dangling in front of us, we never find that freedom. We find ourselves serving some master at every turn. To serve God is to be free indeed, but to serve Satan is to be of the world and is to be in bondage for sure. So look, being a servant of Satan allows us freedom from the disciplines that God has placed upon us for our own good. Now, Satan controls his servants through their emotions. That comes with the flesh. Emotions, it comes with this. I don't know if you all, I don't even know if I taught this last week because I teach so much and I'm always teaching. But just in case you didn't know that we, human beings, you and I, this flesh, this thing right here, this is like a car, a vehicle. When you get in your car and you drive from one place to another, from A to B, you don't turn around and consider the car that you're driving in you. Not unless you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and you're confused in some way to think that car is you. You never get out of it. You stay in it all your life. You eat in there. You do your business in there. You do everything in your car. You go places. You never get out. Because see, that's what this is. The real you and I are inside of this thing. And only time we get in it when we're born, and we get out of it when this thing dies. But you and I, we never die. This thing dies. But we're going to get in that in the book in another chapter that deals with reincarnation. So we're going to deal with that, but not in this chapter. This is dealing with your purpose, right? So again, Satan controls his servants through their emotions, and emotions come with this flesh. Now, what emotions am I talking about? All of them. Anger, joy, frustration, strife, wrath, every emotion you can think of, it comes with this flesh. But now, under God, emotions have no place. It's God's way, regardless of how it makes you feel. But under Satan, you make decisions and follow rules and laws based upon how you feel about it. The most painful emotion that we have experienced as human beings is rejection. How do we respond to rejection? Now, in the Holy Bible, Moses, in one of the books of the Holy Bible, Moses was rejected by the children of Israel after God, through him, delivered them from slavery. Now, this is in the Holy Bible, the book of Numbers, chapter 14, verses 2 through 4. Okay? So now God sent Moses to Pharaoh in Egypt. And God told Moses to tell Pharaoh to let my people go, right? Moses went through all kind of crap with Pharaoh to get him to let the people go. God put plague after plague and all this stuff on them. And the children of Israel had to make bricks without straw. So all kind of stuff they were going through, right? But then eventually, when the death plague hit Pharaoh, he gave in and he let all the children of Israel go with Moses, right? They're supposed to have been going out into the promised land. Well, Moses was supposed to have been taking the children of Israel to the promised land. They were in the wilderness, and the children of Israel, if you don't know the story, you need to read in that chapter in the book of Numbers in the Bible, because it talks about that whole sojourn that they took from Egypt through the wilderness. And through that whole process, the children of Israel were giving Moses fits. They were accusing Moses of bringing them out there in the wilderness to die because they didn't have no food, even though after they complained about not having no food, Moses prayed to God and God sent down manna from heaven for them to eat. Now, I don't even know what manna is. Maybe y'all could Google that. See what manna. Right? But now, how do you think Moses felt after all he did, to get the children of Israel freed from the bondage that they were in under Pharaoh? Now they free now. I guess they're free to go off on Moses. They wasn't going off on Pharaoh though, because Pharaoh would have got that butt. He would have chopped some heads or whatever. But now they free, and they was giving Moses fits. How do you think that made Moses feel? Because we're talking about rejection, right? How do you think Moses felt being rejected by the people he was sent to save? How do you think Jesus felt? Well, we're going to get there, but how would you feel? How would it have made you feel if you was in Moses' position and they began to treat you like that after all you had done? Another Bible story dealing with Joseph was rejected by his brothers, his own flesh and blood, who out of jealousy and envy sold their brother into slavery. Now, this is in a Holy Bible, in the book of Genesis, chapter 37, verses 12 through 36. Again, that's Genesis 37, 12 through 36. Now, how do you think Joseph felt about his own brothers out of jealousy? They threw him in a hole like a whale and told their father that a lion had killed him, and then went back and sold him to some people that were coming by, sold him as a slave to them and got paid. Now, how do you think Joseph felt? How would you have felt if that was you, your brothers and your sisters or whatever had sold you into slavery? See, rejection is not a good feeling when especially when it's your own that's rejecting you. David was rejected by King Saul. He sought to kill David out of envy and jealousy. Now, this is in the Holy Bible, 1 Samuel 18, verse 25. Again, that's 1 Samuel, out of the Holy Bible, 1 Samuel 18, 25. Now, Samuel was a soldier in King Saul's army. And Samuel was a great warrior. And people were starting to sing. I mean, not Samuel, I'm sorry. That's the book of Samuel. I'm talking about David. I'm getting all mixed up. But David was a warrior in Saul's army. And David was killing millions of soldiers in the war. And Saul was killing his numbers of people too. But they were saying Saul was killing hundreds, but David was killing thousands. So the people were singing David's praise, and Saul got kind of envious and jealous and was wondering, like, hey, what's going on here? I'm the king. How are you singing his praise? He just one of my soldiers. You singing his praises like he's a better man than me. And so Saul turned on David and sought to kill him, sent soldiers out after him. The same soldiers that he fought next to, sent them out to kill David. Now, how do you think that made David feel? How would it have made you feel if somebody that you fought for all of a sudden turned on you because people were singing your praise more than they were singing his and decided to have you taken out? How would that make you feel? See, this thing called rejection is very, very, very vital to understanding who we are and our purpose in life. The last story that I got for you in the Holy Bible is dealing with Jesus. Jesus was rejected by his own people who called for his crucifixion after all the great miracles that he had performed. Now, this is in the Holy Bible, the book of Matthew. I think that's the New Testament. Yeah, the book of Matthew, the 27th chapter, verses 22 through 23. Now, these people, Jesus came to save them, just like Moses had came to save the children of Israel out of Egypt, right? He came to save them. And if it was you, I'm trying to get you to see something here. If it was you, how would you feel? If you went all out of your way to try to help these people and they turn around and just sold you out, dropped a dime on you, had you arrested. I mean, you'd be feeling some kind of way, wouldn't you? I know I would. So the reason I'm going here is because there's a concept that I want us to understand. There's a thing called as above, so below. Hey, Sasa, we got Sasa. She's here checking us out. But there's a concept that I want us to get. And this concept is dealing with as above, so below. We've heard it many times. We've heard it plenty of times. But I want you to understand what it really means, this concept of as above, so below. Now, there was a war that took place in heaven. Now, I hope you all can take this. Now, this is some pretty deep teaching. And so, but I'm going to share it with you. Here we go. There's a war that took place in heaven. You know, and this war was between God and Lucifer. Now, God don't have a physical body. God is not a physical being. God is thought. I'm going to say that again. God is thought. Now, what do I mean by that? You and I are like God. You know, they say God is all-knowing, is everywhere at the same time. You and I are the same way. If you wanted to be on a beach in California, all you have to do is close your eyes and think about the beach in California, and begin to visualize it in your mind's eye. And as long as you're in that peaceful, like meditative state, you are on the beach in LA. You're on a beach, you see. So you could be anywhere you want to be at any time you want to be through thought. So, but thought, now God is thought. It said, but through his sharing portions of his mind with us in the process called birth, because see, when we are born, God gives us a portion of his mind, which is who we are, the real us, not this physical flesh, and we are birthed into the physical body that's called a baby, and he brings his thought into existence through us. Because now, if you think about this, you can think about a thing, but if you didn't have the physical means to produce it and make it happen, then everything that you would think about would be just that, a thought. It would never manifest itself because as a thought, there is no materialistic, tangible thing that you can create with. You can create things, thoughts, of course. Like, to give another example, we think about things all the time. I'm in a group, and we've been thinking about a logo for our group, right? And I had a thought of what it should be, and then another brother had a thought about what it should be. But if I never was able to produce something tangible as far as what my thought was, then it's nothing but a thought. But I was able to produce that logo and that thought and put it on a t-shirt and on a hoodie and things of that nature so that it could be seen. And this is why God created us. He created us so that as above thoughts, because that's where our thoughts is. See, this is God's throne. Right up here, where our mind is, where our brain is, this is the throne of God. And this is heaven. This is where the war took place between good and evil, as they say, or against God and Lucifer. It took place here. But now, God created Adam, or man. And I want to share with you, because most of us, we always talk about this war that took place in heaven, but we never really get into what that war really was all about. And where did the war, I mean, what the war was really about? What caused it? And what kicked it off? Now, in the Bible, it only tells us about the war that took place, right? But now in the Holy Quran, now the Holy Quran is a book of the Muslims. But I read the Holy Quran just like I read the Bible, because I want understanding. I want to be able to understand what we are dealing with when it talks about this war in heaven. Now, the Holy Quran, it gives us the details about what took place in heaven that caught. Now, understand this. Now, this is heaven, so this took place in God's mind. But then God cast it all to the earth. You know, as above, so below. Now let's listen. Let's check out the story. Here it says, when all right, here we go. It says, when your Lord said to the angels, I am placing a successor in the earth. Now, this is God talking to the angels, right? He said, I'm putting a successor in the earth. Now, do you know what a successor is? Just like when you have a king, and if the king dies, somebody has to be the successor of the king and follow the king to be the ruler, right? So God's saying, I'm putting the successor on the earth. And the angel says, will you place in it someone who will cause corruption in it and shed blood? While we declare your praise and sanctify you, he said, I know what you know not. God told the angels, I know what you know not. Because the angel said, well, if you put somebody, a successor in the earth, all they're going to do is shed blood and cause corruption. And in verse 31, it says, and he, talking about God, he taught Adam the names, all of them. Then he presented them to the angels and said, tell me the names of these if you are sincere. So God taught Adam the names of everything. Everything that he created, he taught Adam their names, what their names are. And then he went to the angels. And then he said, ask the angels, okay, if you guys are sincere, tell me the names of these things. I created this. Tell me their names. And their response was, glory be to you. We have no knowledge except what you have taught us. It is you who are the knowledgeable, the wise. Now, what is God doing here? Now, he didn't teach the angels the names of things. It says he went and taught Adam the names of things, right? But then he goes to the angels after teaching Adam the names of things. He goes to the angels and say, okay, y'all tell me if you so sincere and y'all so knowledgeable and this and that, tell me what their names are. And they couldn't, right? And then in verse 33, he says, oh, Adam, tell them their names. And when he told them their names, he said, God said, did I not tell you that I know the secrets of the heavens and the earth, and that I know what you reveal and what you conceal? Now, he went and taught Adam the names of everything. He brings Adam before the angels, and then he says, okay, angels, tell me the names of everything. And they couldn't, right? Then he tells Adam, well, tell them their names. And he tells them their names because why? God taught him what their names were. So now, how do you think the angels felt? How do you think they felt? Because the angels know that if Adam knew their names, the only way he was going to know their names is that God taught him their names. And so God, after Adam tells them their names, and he says, you see, I know the secrets of the heavens and the earth, and I know what you reveal and what you conceal. He's talking about the angels, right? So he's telling them that they're concealing something that he's going to bring out of them. And so in verse 34, he says, and we said to the angels, bow down to Adam. They bowed down except Satan. He refused. Well, he wasn't Satan. He was Lucifer then, because he didn't turn into Satan until God kicked him out. Said he refused and was arrogant. It was one of the disbelievers. See, what God was doing, he was bringing out this arrogance that he knew was I don't know what happened, but man, right when I'm getting to the good stuff, man, they tried to take me out, man. That's crazy. I don't know what that's all about. But here, oh shoot, my time is up anyway. I'm gonna have to continue this next week, you guys. But tune in next Saturday because we're gonna start right there where God was testing the angels, and He was bringing something out of them. He was bringing a hidden emotion and feelings that they had within them. So next week we will be here, and I thank you all for checking this out. Until then, peace and hair grease. We out.
Our time together has come to an end, but the journey continues. Thank you for holding this space with us and for being an essential part of the Spiritual Lens podcast. As we go our separate ways for now, I ask that you carry the energy of this conversation with you. If you feel inclined, please share this podcast with someone who may find value in it, and continue the conversation with us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. We hope you will join us again in this space next Saturday at 11 a.m. Until then,